the time of the great backwoods revivals of the late 1800s that swept through the eastern and southern states, there have been brush harbors and camp meetings, mainly throughout the South. Some of the camp meetings are several weeks long, or there are several weeks scheduled during the year where preachers and laymen alike may come for spiritual, physical, and mental renewal. One of the unique characters of our generation is a Baptist preacher who was born in the mountains of East Tennessee, Brother Billy Kelly. There have been only a few like him before his day, and he certainly is the last of those rare preachers who can ably blend higher education with the plain, simple, and sometimes antiquated ways of life.
My past is longer than I am old. I mean, buddy, I could sit here and talk, I guess, from now till doomsday and never tell all the things that's happened in my life. I was born in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, April the 17th, 1932. And some of the happiest days I guess I ever spent on the face of this earth was in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. My grandfather had land of inheritance, about 165 acres. On each side of the farm was Old Poplar Creek. The other side was Indian Creek. I fished, I hunted, I enjoyed life as a young man, and I thought that's the grandest place in all the world. Well, my mother and daddy couldn't live together. My daddy was pastor of the First Baptist Church in Oliver Springs, Tennessee at one time, and my daddy backslid on the Lord and moved to Corbin, Kentucky in 1938. And bought an old beer joint and an old hotel. Now, I never seen my daddy drink. Never known him drink. He wasn't a cusser, but he just went to the bottom. And there's a fussing going on. We came back to Knoxville, and I finished the first grade in Knoxville. Then went back to Oliver Springs, and we went to Scarborough School out there, which is in a portion of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And by the way, my forefathers owned all that whole country. My great-great-grandfathers owned 9,000 acres in there. And it's all around Oliver Springs and Scantling and Elsie and all in that portion of the country. But I had to walk 2 miles to that schoolhouse. I mean, to catch the bus to go to the schoolhouse. And the coal trucks would weigh their coal at the scales. My cousin ran the scales, and we'd just hope and pray that he'd be open and have that pot-bellied stove going. We was about to freeze to death. Have to leave the house before daylight in the wintertime and get back after dark at night. And we'd meet that school bus and ride that thing for about 25 miles to Scarborough School. And my little sister, boy, she'd cry, and I'd want to slap her jaws, and the reason I did, I was about to cry myself. We were just about to freeze. And then we moved back to Knoxville, Tennessee, and stayed there for several years. And then I went off to a military school. They put me in a military school. My mother had remarried, and I went off to military school, stayed there 4 years. And it was during those days that I really learned something about life. And I was telling a little bit of it yesterday. You heard me talk about it. But the old man that run that school was Mr. Morgan, Kenneth Morgan. And he drove some things in my heart that I never got over. Be a man. Face the music. And we went swimming on Sunday. A bunch of us slipped off, 50 of us. Went swimming on Sunday. That's against the rules. And all he had to do on Monday morning in chapel, say, you that went swimming yesterday, meet me in my office. We didn't lie about it. 50 of us lined up. Old Mr. Morgan took a board, a panel about that long, had some holes bored in it. It was about 1 inch thick, but he put it on us, 3 licks apiece. He'd tell stories that make me want to do right. He told about a barber that came to town, and he'd be cutting people's hair, and every time a strange card come in, he'd have to look and see who that was. And one day there's a car came in, and out the back door he went. He is in trouble, always running. And that man told in that story, you live right, you do right, you won't have to run. There won't be somebody chasing you down. You won't be looking through the bars in the penitentiary. And that got to me. I was born back in the mountains of East Tennessee, and we as poor folks, now you talk about being poor, buddy. We as so poor, we spelled poor with 3 O's. If they'd have been a Kentucky Fried Chicken in our day, we'd have to lick somebody else's fingers. Mama wanted us to carpet the bathroom, so we kept enough money and saved up enough to carpet the thing. And she liked it so good, we just put it up a path on the end of the house. We had it rough, brother. We had it rough, I want you to know. But Mama would get up in the morning time, and my mother, and they'd make them big old cat head biscuits. I mean them kind that you could pack a lunch on just about. And when I'd bite one of them things, it'd be a half moon, and the next bite a total eclipse. And I've always said, when I die, I hope that I can fall in a bowl of chicken gravy with 2 of them biscuits and drown. But anyhow, they'd pack up my lunch, and we'd go to school with tenderloin and good old biscuits with great jelly, blackberry jelly, and fried apple pies. Did you like that?
Yeah, you take a bucket.
Whoo, Lord, in the 2nd grade, I carried a 4-pound lard bucket. And in the 3rd grade, I carried an 8-pound lard bucket. And by the time I got to high school, I was carrying a lard can, that big around. But we had some happy times, glorious times, and I mean, God started my life out in that part of the world. Now, I didn't realize that along life's journey what God would do for me. Let me meet some of the strangest people ever met. Woo! Remind me of that man and woman had a boy late in life. They wondered what they was going to name him. And they couldn't figure out what kind of name to give him. So they just finally called him Odd. And they said that old boy despised that name. He hated that name. And when he died, he told him, he said, look, don't put that name on no tombstone. Said, just don't put anything on it. Just put a rock up and forget it. And so they did. Some years later, people was going through that graveyard, and they looked, and there was just that stone standing there. And a fella said, isn't that odd? The first ball he threw, Dangerous Dan laid it over center field fence, and they beat us 4-2. After losing that ball game, I was so upset, I went and bought me a 5th of liquor. I went to Joe McDonald's pool hall there on Gay Street in Knoxville, and there's an extra long flight of steps went up. I went up, went back to the restroom, and I don't know how much of it I drunk. Well, I drunk enough of it to knock me out. And that was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I laid down that restroom floor, dog drunk, vomited all over the floor, wallered in it, my clothes tore a hole in my trousers. Man, I was an awfulest fix you ever seen in your life. And about 6 o'clock that evening, some old boys was leaving the pool hall. And they went down, and when they got on the street, why, there's some fellas handing out tracts. And they, to keep them, get them off their back, they said, hey, why don't you go up there to the pool hall? Said, old Red Kelly's laying up there, dog drunk. Give him some of them tracts. Well, they came up, found me in that drunken stupor. They took me outside in the pool hall, and there looked like a church pew. Well, it was a church pew, is what it was. A padded church pew. They set me down that thing. They got some towels, put in the cold water fountain, put them on my face, trying to sober me up. Downstairs was a Crystal hamburger place. They got tomato juice. Gave me tomato juice, trying their best to sober me up. Then they put me in the car, stuck my head out the window and hauled me around the block, trying to get fresh air to me. and trying to get me sobered up. And finally they asked me, said, to go to revival with them. And I said, I can't. I gave every excuse I could think of. And then the big one hit me. I said, I got a date tonight, and my girlfriend won't let me go because I knew she was in bad shape as I was. They said, let's go call her. Well, I said, okay, because I knew she wasn't going to let me go. We went back to that pool hall, got on the extension line, and they said, is it okay if Red goes to revival? She said, Lord have mercy. If he's going to revival, take him on. Well, I tried to get out of that deal. I crawfished every way I could. I couldn't get out of it. Finally, I told him, I said, now look, I'm going to go. But I'm going to sit on the back seat. And when the invitation starts, I'm going to get up and go out in the yard and smoke me a cigarette. That's what I'm going to do. So I got in. I thought they was going to a little old church house somewhere. They hauled me to the University of Tennessee Auditorium. 5,000 people had already jammed in there for a revival service. And when I got out, a sloop-legged that couldn't walk. One guy on one side, one on the other. The usher said, you'd have to take him, pointing at me, upstairs. I reckon that's where they kept the drunk. So up the steps we went. Got up there, and it's hot. And if you've ever been a drunk, you know what I'm talking about. I went to sleep. I don't know what they sung about. I don't know what they preached about. But when it come time for the invitation, that 500-voice choir stood up. And they began to sing, if you want joy, real joy, wonderful joy, let Jesus come in your heart. Well, I thought I've had a lot of good times. I've gone to chicken fights and dog fights, and I played an old fiddle and honky-tonks, and I've gone here and there to dances, and I've drunk liquor, and I've had some good times. And they were singing, if you want real joy. And then they got to singing, are there any rivers that seem to be uncrossable? Are there any mountains you cannot tunnel through? God specializes in things that seem to be impossible, and he can work a miracle for you. Boy, about that time an old boy stepped up, and he was the vice president of our senior class. I was the president. Had 180 students graduate that year. Old Jim Ruffner stepped up and put his arm around me, said, Red, where would you go if you used to die tonight? I said, to go to hell, same place you're going. I knew he was a hypocrite, and we go to church on Sunday and live like a devil the rest of the time. I said, go to hell, same place you're going. He looked at me and tears running down. He said, Red, you might go to hell, but you won't go where I'm going. He said, I got saved night before last. Boy, about that time he said to me, said, Red, said, stick your foot out and God will meet you halfway. Now listen, I've been preaching 45 years, almost 46. I guess, yeah, it's 46 now. And I've never told anybody to ever stick their foot halfway out and God meet them. I never have. But I stood there, and I didn't know this then. I found this out later. Somebody stepped up to the evangelist, Buckner Fanning, and said to him, if you can get that red-headed boy up yonder on the balcony saved, said they ain't no telling what happened in this meeting. And he had everybody in the house to bow their heads and go to praying for me. And I didn't know that. And I looked around, that old boy said, Red, go on, stick your foot out. God will meet you halfway. And I looked around, everybody had their head bowed. And everybody was praying. I didn't know this was praying for me. And he just kept saying, stick your foot out. God will meet you halfway. Well, to get him off my back, I thought, well, I'll just stick my foot out and that'll be it. I was standing right next to the aisle. I stuck my foot out, and when I did, Mother was following it. Buddy, out there I come. I'm going to tell you, listen, last gun I got downstairs walking wasn't fast enough. Next thing I was in a trot, that wasn't fast enough. Next thing I'm in a dead run. Boy, I slid into that altar like a ball player sliding into home. Hallelujah to God. People began to try to talk to him, and I wouldn't talk to them. Wasn't interested in them. My trouble was between me and God. And I felt like Jesus was sitting on a throne. Like that thing at Washington of Abraham Lincoln sitting in that big chair. I felt like Jesus sitting about 12, 15 feet above my head in a big old chair like that looking at me. And I slowed down, I couldn't look up. My sins so dirty and black. And I was so lost I couldn't look up. And boy, I tell you, I prayed about an hour and a half. Some things I confessed a half a dozen times, making sure I got them in. And after a while, I said, here it goes. I'm going to turn this. I ran back and I looked up toward heaven. And I said, God, if you can save me, save me. And if you can use me, use me. Boy, about that time. Oh, Lord. There's a dose of salvation. Came out of a land that's fairer than day. And I tell you, I got born again. I mean, saved, redeemed, heaven bound, saved forever and forever. And I didn't know all about it. I didn't know. If I'd known then what I know now, I'd still been running, I guess. Old ugly people look good. Amen to God. I come out of that building that night, and it seemed like the stars came out on dress parade and began to wink at me and say, we're glad you're saved. It seemed like the trees just clapping their hands and saying, we're glad you're born again. It seemed like that God the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, all that crowd that's in heaven, was leaning over the battlements of glory saying, we're glad that you're saved, born again.
The strains of the old-time Southern gospel music, happy and holy shouting of the praise to God, and leather-lung preaching may be heard at the Greer Baptist Camp Meeting in Greer, South Carolina. There, Brother Billy Kelly presides as the patriarch of this summer phenomenon. He is truly a mountain man and a man of God, loved and admired by the humble and the elite of the spiritual world. His faithful and consistent testimony has been heard by thousands in the camp meetings he has conducted, as well as in local churches all across America. Billy attended Carson Newman College, where he played football and met Dot, his lifelong companion.
When I went off to college, I met her, and I was talking to an old boy by the name of Chesney, and sat at the administration building, and I saw her come walking across the campus there, and I said to old Chesney, I said, yon comes my wife. Yon's my wife. And I said, do you know her? He said, yeah. I said, introduce me to her. And well, her name was Dot Frost. And I said to him, I said, I believe I need frostbitten. So he called her over there, pardon me, and introduced me to her. And boy, when I saw that girl, I'm telling you what's truth, goose pimples jumped out on me, chill bumps. I got an office fix you ever seen in your life. But anyhow, I thought that was the sweetest, prettiest, brown-eyed gal I'd ever seen in my life. And I don't know, I just loved her from the moment that I saw her. And I wanted her to be my wife. But anyhow, I thought that was the sweetest, prettiest, brown-eyed gal I'd ever seen in my life. And I don't know, I just loved her from the moment that I saw her. And I wanted her to be my wife. Well, we got to courting. Next thing you know, I got drafted in the United States Army. And I didn't have, I wasn't ordained or anything like that, so I had to go to the service. And I went to Fort Jackson, and then I went down to Camp Polk, Louisiana. I called it Louisiana. That was the lousiest place I'd ever been in my life. And I was the lowest thing on the totem pole. I was a PVT. Every day, and I'd go to mail call. I'd wait to hear my name called out. I hear that old sergeant now, Private Kelly, up, Sarge. And they'd hand that letter back to me. And, well, came back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Got my first leave to go home. When I got home, I went to that brick rock house on Main Street in Sevierville, Tennessee. And when I got there, I had lost weight, and I was trying to get kind of dressed up a little at the car where it wouldn't look so bad. About that time, the door of that house flew open, the screen went back, and a young girl, 20 years old, come flying out that door, jumped 4 steps, hit that sidewalk doing 90, and I met her doing 110, buddy. I mean, I was in love. Well, we went on and courting, and one Sunday afternoon, Why, we went to a cemetery at a church out in the country there, and I gave her a ring and asked her to be my wife. And we got engaged. And we was married September the 6th, 1953 in Sevierville, Tennessee at the First Baptist Church. Brother Walton asked me a few moments ago, said, how did they get you in that film on Sheffey? Well, I've never had any affiliations with Bob Jones University. I don't know why. But anyhow, they came and sent a fellow out to see me about using. I had a stagecoach. I had horses and mules and a team of oxen. And I happened to be out the barn, mowing overhauls. That's all I ever were. And I was feeding the hogs. And here comes this fellow from Bob Jones University.
Bet he had a tie and a coat on.
Yes, he did. Did you know him?
Yeah, I knew him.
And anyhow, he came up and he saw me, and he was going to ask me about using that stagecoach and the mules and the horses. And when he looked me over, he liked me better than he did them other jackasses.
In his early days, before he was an experienced preacher or well known, he began holding meetings wherever there was a warm heart or a listening ear. Let's let Billy tell you about two of those early meetings.
I started preaching, and the McCall Avenue Baptist Church said, we'll set up a tent out here in this section. We'd like to organize a church out in there if we could. Said, we can't reach those people. They won't come to our church. It's a big Southern Baptist church. And back in those days, there wasn't any independent Baptist churches hardly. So they said, we'll put a tent up and let you go out there and preach. So I went out there and I preached, and this woman had 15 kids, and her husband was in the penitentiary, and that whole family made a profession of faith. Well, it impressed the community, and others got saved. And then as a result of it, we organized the Timothy Street Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. I felt led of God to go to Oliver Springs, where I was born, and see if I could hold a revival meeting. Well, Garvin Walls was a celebrated hero from World War II. He is one of the lone survivors off the Bunker Hill that sunk. When he came back to Oliver Springs from the war, he built a big old tabernacle. And he let people go there and hold meetings and all that. And I went, called him, I said, Garvin, how about let me use that tabernacle? Yeah, how much? Just pay the light bill and you can have it. Well, I was tickled to death for that. So I went and bought brochures. I had a big banner printed to go across the street and announced the meeting. I'd been on the radio and all. And I knew radio announcers, and I called them and asked them to announce the meeting. Everybody was announcing the meeting. And everybody knew the meeting was going on. I just didn't figure that building was going to hold them. And it'd seat 2,000. And I just didn't feel like we'd have enough room. The first night, we had 35 in a building that seats 2,000. Why, it didn't even look like enough to sing a song. Boy, was I let down. I took off the next day, and I got in touch with those radio announcers. I said, look, announce it. They said, we're telling it every 30 minutes. And they was telling it, but in the crowd was nothing. Well, to make a long story short, I preached that week. I couldn't get enough money to pay the light bill. I begged and I begged. I was broke as a convict. I wanted to give my song leader a love offering. I had no money. I'm in a bad fix. Well, down towards the weekend, a little old boy got saved. And his daddy was a mailman. And he came to me and he said, preacher, said, I quit taking up money for the lights. Said, God told me to pay the light bill. Said, I don't care how long you stay here, I'll pay the light bill. So he, that relieved me on that. Well, over the weekend, Milford Ely pastored Pisgah Church, Mount Pisgah Baptist Church. They came in, and I guess the biggest crowd was about 150. That's all, in an auditorium that seats 2,000. Well, I preached the second week, and I said, this is it, I'm going to quit. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to quit. I said, these people on this is no revival. And I was going to get up and tell them, this is what I was going to tell them. I said, I was going to say, listen, do you hear them? I said, this place ain't 40 foot from hell. I said, I can hear the screams of hell. And I said, I'm getting out of here. I said, you know, this is a revival meeting. I'm going to quit. Well, that's what I was going to tell them. Just at about the time I got up at night and I was going to tell them that old boy jumped up, played that old guitar and sung. And he said, preacher, I hope you don't think I'm taking over. But said, God wants me to sing a song. And he started singing. Well, I said, go ahead. I don't want to preach no how. So he started singing an old song that you've heard it many of a time. And most quartets and soloists that sing about 3 verses of it, and that's it. I saw a way-worn traveler in tattered garments clad, coming up the mountain. It seemed that he was sad. His back was heavy laden, his strength was almost gone. Yet he shouted, glad Hosanna, deliverance will come. And then he sung on, and if you know the original song, it's got 24 verses, if I remember correctly. And he didn't leave a one of them out. Not a one of them. Well, I got up and said, folks, y'all come on back tomorrow night. We'll try it again tomorrow night. Now, I was going to tell them I was going to quit. But that song got me to go on another night. So the next night, I'm down again. I'm going to tell them tonight for a fact it's over with. This is it. And just about that time, that old boy got up again and said, preacher, I hope you don't think I'm taking over, but God wants me to sing again. And he sung the same thing. Well, I started preaching, and I heard the doors are rattling, double doors way at the end of the auditorium. And we was using the side door. We turned all the lights out except down close to the front, trying to save on the light bill. And I heard those double doors rattling. And I couldn't see, it's dark back through there. And finally I made out it's my old white-haired pawpaw. And some of my great aunts and uncles. About 10 or 12 of them. I said, Pawpaw, y'all come on down here now, closer. Plenty of seats down here. Get your seat. I don't know what I preached on, don't know what I said, but I know when that invitation started that night, the first that stepped that aisle was my old pawpaw. And he came down, got in the altar, and I heard him cry out, oh, God, I'm a sinner. Save me for Jesus' sake. And that night, boy, I tell you this, and I was going to quit that meeting. But as a young preacher just starting out, God showed me something that night. When it looks like it's all over. When the devil said throw the towel in and quit. When there's no more tomorrows. It's all over. You're washed up. Nothing to it. Praise God, he's just fixing to do something. And God showed me that as a young man. And I don't know, I believe I told Brother Pete yesterday. That word discouragement, that's never been my mind since then. I've been run off. I've been to churches that actually voted me out as the evangelist. Run me off, voted me out while I was there. And I've had them to say all kinds of things about me and call me everything you can lay their tongue to. But there's a few things that I throwed out of my thinking. Can't. Oh, listen, buddy. I tossed that one out. And you can't or don't. Just, hey. And I'll tell you what, that word discouragement left me. Amen to God. They can cuss me. They can call me anything they want to. You know what I do? I make shut down shop here, but I'm so tickled to death there's another place to get to, and I ain't got time to study about that outfit.
Many evangelists visit Brother Kelly's home for advice, counsel, and to draw upon his vast years of experience. One of his recent visitors was Evangelist Randy Brown, who gleaned from his ripe fields of spiritual insight. Brother Kelly sometimes is philosophical, and his convictions are firm. He has very definite views on current issues, and especially the Word of God.
I'm 63 years old. I can remember as a boy getting out one day in the yard on Sunday with a hoe cutting some weeds down. And my grandma hollered at me, "Put that hoe up, boy. This is the Lord's day." Woo. They didn't play ball on Sunday. I'm talking about people believed anything. We didn't go swimming on the Lord's day. And people, when we went to school, if it was at a revival meeting, they'd turn school out and go down to that church for revival services. And people had fear of God. Now you take in Romans chapter 3 and verse 18, he says this, there is no fear of God. There's got to be a fear of God. They don't fear God this day and time. That's when they shack up. Why, used to be if a man that had done that in the community or went with some crooked woman and forsaken his family, well, times have changed. Now then, people get on worldwide television and they brag about being lesbians. They boast in the fact that they've taken Bible reading out of the schoolhouse. And I remember when Eisenhower marched troops into Clinton, Tennessee. But now then, look what it is. Everybody brags. They was having a parade the other day down here at Columbia, South Carolina, and the television was there, and all of a sudden the television just zoomed in on a feller. And you know what he said? And now you know. In other words, he's coming out of the closet. Everybody'd know. And some people that I've known that I never dreamed of that was that way, they've stepped out. Who in the name of God ever dreamed that we'd live a day when men that have long hair, and that age came in, men letting their hair grow out like women. I tell them they ought to grow a hair on their chest and be a man instead of their head. And these crowd wearing bracelets like the women and lace on their drawers like the women and all the rest of it. And that's the age, that's the time we're living in. And when they take God out, well, but our trouble started, sure enough. And it's not going to get any better. He says it's going to get worse and worse. When I was a young preacher starting out, I thought everything was going to get better. But it's getting worse and worse. And I used to think it, it's going to get better. I hear some of these liberal preachers talking about more Bibles, more religious institutions, more money, more preachers. Everything's getting better. There may be more money, more institutions, more preachers, but it's getting worse all the time. Now, how many young fellas you know took a church, they got in a church fight, and that ended their ministry right there. It was over with. They couldn't take it. They couldn't pay the dues. But I'd tell him to hang in there. Be faithful to God. First of all, to find out that he's a shepherd and not a sheepdog. God's man commands every situation. I said every situation, bar none. And I believe that with all of my heart. And any man's a leader. He's got to command every situation. And when I go into church, I take over. Why do I take over? Well, what they've had hadn't been working, so let's try this way.
Yep.
See? And you go somewhere and the pastor wants to tell you how to run a revival meeting,
Well, just let him run it. He don't need you. So I learned that God's man commands every situation, and that he ought to wait on God and let the Lord be the leader. He's the under shepherd, but takes commands from the Lord and does what God would have him to do. And I'd tell every young preacher in this country to take that old King James version of the Bible. I believe God set that up for the last days. One college fella told me, he said, well, I can't understand that old Bible, these and thous and this and that. Well, I said, you're a college man. How is it your grandpa that never saw the third grade could understand it?
Yeah.
And you're a college man and you can't understand it. I said, your grandpas knew what it meant. And I'll tell you, a man that reads that book, as it said in the Revelation, you may not be able to understand Revelation, but he didn't say understand, he said read it.
Billy is God's man. He's an unusual man. I sometimes say that Billy Kelly is an institution. That's more than just a personality. He's an institution. His culture is different from the average man. He appreciates humble things and common things and ordinary things more than an ordinary man would. He's built that way. He's made that way. He sees things along the side of the highway that most of us would pass up and pass by. But he sees them. And not only does he see them, but he sees a lesson that God intends that we get from these things that he sees in life's pilgrimage.
I appreciate men like Brother Harold Sadler, a very learned man, one of the wisest men I know. And I say of Brother Harold Sadler, that of all the preachers that I know across this country, I believe he's one of the most conscientious preachers that I ever met in my life. I've never seen him in a sports shirt like this. He always has on a coat and a tie. I saw him in his own yard mowing grass with a suit on. In other words, he stayed ready. That's a signal to me that he's ready to go for God any minute to witness to the hospital. And here I am in my 60s laying in the hospital up there, and I heard something shuffling. And here he was, 80 years old, shuffling, feet just barely moving, coming down through the halls of the hospital to visit me. I mean, listen, buddy, 6:30 in the morning. I've been on trips with him, and he said to me at Pontotoc, Mississippi, said, can I ride home with you? I said, yeah. We rode home and got home for him to catch a plane out to go somewhere else to preach. Most conscientious preacher I ever met.
Billy has not only touched the lives of thousands through his preaching, but mountain music and gospel music have been a vital part of his private and public life.
I will meet you in the morning by the bright river side, when all sorrow has drifted away. I'll be standing at the portals when the gates open wide, at the close of life's long dreary day. I'll meet you in the morning at the house you do, and we sit down by the river and with rapture on acquaintance renewed.
southeastern part of the United States. I want you to pull them stoppers out. And I mean, let her rip, honey. Let's go now. Here we go. Down home, I mean, we pull them stoppers. You want to sing it, you help us with it. I just thinking a few moments ago, I got a little boy, 16 years old. 16 years ago, went home to be of the Lord. You know, one of these mornings, I was talking to Brother Odom. Brother Odom had a son to go home to be with God. Listen, if you was to give me a million worlds like this one, I wouldn't bring him back. One of these mornings, the old ship of Zion comes sailing in. Thank God. You know what the verse here says? I will meet you in the morning at the end of the way, on the streets of the city of gold, where we all can be together and be happy for while the years and the ages shall roll. It'll be a morning, thank God, when that old ship of Zion comes sailing in. I believe a young man will walk out on the sunny banks of sweet deliverance. Thank God, take me by the hand and we'll shout all over heaven one of these glad days. Maybe you got a mother, dad, brother, sister, maybe some of you precious mothers that walk down through the jaws of death to bring a little child in this world. Maybe you've got a child over there. We get out that chorus, you feel free. We ain't got no clamps on us here, nothing tying us down. If you want to sing it, join in with us, would you? I will meet you in the morning at the end of the way, on the streets of that city of gold, where we all can be together and be happy for while the years and the ages shall roll. I'll meet you in the morning.
I'm on my way to that land called heaven, far beyond the starry sky, where there's no heartaches, sin or sorrow, where we'll live and never die. I'm on my way, praise God, I'm on my way today to everything my soul longs for. I place my trust in Christ my Savior. Praise the Lord, I'm on my way. bloodstained way. Oh, but best of all, I'll see my Savior on that grand and glorious day. I'm on my way, praise God, I'm on my way today to everything my soul longs for. I place my trust in Christ, my Savior. Praise the Lord, I'm on my way. Yes, praise the Lord, I'm on my way. Once I was straying in sin's dark valley, no hope within could I see. They searched through heaven and found a Savior to save a poor lost soul like me. Oh, what a Savior! Oh, hallelujah! His heart was broken on Calvary. Calvary, his hands were nail scarred, his side was riven. He gave his lifeblood for even me. Death's chilly waters I'll soon be crossing. His hands will lead me safe